New York Times. Are they going to interview Juanita Broderick? Are they going to interview Paula Jones? Are they going to interview Kathleen Willey? In one case, it's about exposure. In another case, it's about groping and fondling and touching against a woman's will.
And rape.
And rape.
And big settlements, massive settlements.
$850,000 for Paula Jones.
Lots of other things. And impeachment for lying.
Smearing, besmirchment
and
of women.
losing your law license. You know, he lost his law license, okay? Couldn't practice law. And you don't read about this on Clinton.
Let me ask you.
Now, the New York Times, and if you look at Stephanopoulos, these are like the pipe organs for Hillary Clinton.
Well said. Donald Trump last night on this program talking about President Bill Clinton's history of sexual misconduct. Now, this comes just days after the New York Times released a now largely debunked, discredited hit piece regarding Donald Trump's treatment of women. So, will the Times write a 20-page expose about Bill Clinton's scandalous past? Now, we invited the two New York Times authors on the show tonight. They declined to appear on the program. Big shock. Joining us, though, with reaction, the editor-in-chief of LifeSet.com, Fox News contributor Laura Ingraham. It's nearly 20 printed pages, totally debunked in a matter of 24 hours. The guy, it turns out, one of the writers, tweeting anti-Trump material out regularly. Why isn't he fired? And number two, is there any of the other 16 candidates on the Republican side that would have had the courage to do what Donald Trump did last night? I don't think so.
No, Donald Trump has made himself available, Sean, for an interview with you. I watched the entire interview. He was forthcoming on every question you asked him. And I think that's what he has to do. But I will say this. He has that ace in his back pocket, the way that Hillary treated all of Bill Clinton's victims. When every time they bring up the fact, oh, Donald Trump's anti-women. Well, I mean, he has that ace in his back pocket. But I really do believe in this election cycle, all those efforts to smear Trump have failed. You saw all of the Republican candidates who got into the personal tangles with Trump. They made fun of him for his hair, his intellect. They said he wasn't presidential. There were a lot of personal attacks, and he dished it out, too. But all of those personal attacks failed, Sean, because more people in the end believe that he would do the things, the policies, and enact the laws with the help of Congress that were actually going to make the lives of the average American better. So I think he needs to stick to the substantive concerns of the country and address them. And absolutely, and I think he's done. Absolutely, and I think he's done that. But I do believe that he doesn't have to dwell on the personal attacks, because the Clintons are going to try to avoid debating him on the substantive issues of the World Trade Organization, the failed dot-com bubble that Bill Clinton left in George Bush's lap. So the idea that the Clinton economy was great, well, until it wasn't. Until it completely exploded, and now we see what happened with China entering the WTO, all of those issues. So I think he's on pretty good footing there.
I agree on both points, but I also agree, I agree substance first, but yesterday was a pretty substantive day. I mean, he released the names of the people he would like to appoint to the Supreme Court, and then if you noticed last night, I went issue by issue, balancing a budget, energy independence, eliminating Common Core, building up our military, fixing the broken VA, all of these issues. How committed are you to these things? He said yes. But the big difference to me in what was missing with John McCain or Bob Dole or Governor Romney, they get called racist and sexist and they want to kill grandma, and they never fight back. They never punch back. Donald Trump will fight like other candidates have not fought. To me, it's refreshing.
Yes. Yeah, it's refreshing, and I think the fearlessness that he has is very inspiring. When someone is timid, or they're constantly apologizing, oh, I wish I said it this way, and the left loves that, because they think, oh, it shows that you have such introspection and you're so reflective. But what happens when Republicans do that is they get back on their heels. And we saw that with Romney. We saw that with McCain. We see that repeatedly with the Republicans in Congress. And instead, make a forceful case for American renewal, the America movement, as I like to call it. Keep hammering on the issues of terrible trade deals, open borders, all the things you've been exposing, Sean, and I've been trying to talk about on radio for years. Keep hammering on those issues. And when they come at you personally, I think he's absolutely right. hit back and do not start, getting back on your heels. That's a loser proposition.
I totally
and I think he's handled it pretty well so far.
And it's interesting because it works. Hillary Clinton was on CNN this morning, and I think there was a couple of relevant questions. Do you think Paula Jones, to Hillary, do you think Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey are lying? Do you like the way these women were smeared and slandered and besmirched? Why didn't you speak out about it? Why did you take money from Saudi Arabia and other countries that have horrible track records and not speak out against them? But anyway, here's a response on CNN this morning.
Yeah. Do you ever feel compelled to defend your honor, the honor of your husband, with statements that he's making that go to the core of the relationship?
No, not at all. I know that's exactly what he is fishing for, and, I'm not going to be responding.
She cannot answer that question. It's impossible. But it drives her nuts.
Well, again, her surrogates in the press will attack Trump. Trump's a liar. Trump's this. Trump's that. But the moment that there's pushback from actual women or Trump himself, the other side goes silent, or they say, oh, well, we didn't include all of her quotes. We need to have, well, next time we'll do a follow-up report. But the damage they think is already done. But I really believe, Sean, that for most voters, this is all white noise. I think most people believe either Hillary is going to make their life better or Trump with the way he approaches.
I agree. That's all
policy.
True. But I also believe that this was a big week for Trump in this way. The New York Times, they drew out every weapon in their arsenal, and they tried to take him out. And it backfired. All these women that came to Trump's defense and debunked that article in less than 24 hours was amazing. And now it's Hillary and Bill on defense. It was a pretty stunning week.
It was. And it's textbook as to how you have to handle the media in this campaign. You don't want it to distract you from your overall message, but when they come at you, you got to slice back, and you got to slice back at them really hard. And next time they're probably going to think twice before they at least try that tack. But they're going to be throwing more things at him.
No, the next is he's racist. They'll try that.
It's going to be anti-Latino, anti-this, anti-that. But I just think people, I really believe in my heart of hearts, especially when you're looking at that Fox poll, Sean, people are wising up to this. And the Clinton way did not work. It did not work on trade.
An old playbook.
It didn't work on the economy. It's an old, and it looks old and sounds old.
In an unconventional insurgent year. I don't think it works either. All right, Laura, you're the best. Thank you.
Thanks.
And coming up, Donald Trump leads Hillary Clinton now. Back to Hannity, and tonight Hillary Clinton has a new reason to worry. A brand new Fox News poll shows that Donald Trump is beating her in a potential general election matchup, 45-42. And today, a brand new Rasmussen Report poll shows an even bigger lead for Trump. He's beating Hillary by 5 points, 42-37. Here with reaction, Fox News contributors Tucker Carlson and Ebony Williams. Ebony, good to see you. I've got to wonder, if I'm a Democrat, and I'm looking at these numbers, and I'm looking at Pennsylvania, and I'm looking at Ohio and Florida, I'm thinking, uh-oh, do we want to abandon ship?
Yeah, they're saying, uh-oh, and that's why they're pushing Bernie Sanders to get out of this race, because they are getting nervous. They are seeing those numbers, Sean. She is looking weaker and weaker. Trump's looking stronger and stronger, and she's got to build a new playbook. She's even said her old everything being a right-wing conspiracy playbook is not going to work against Donald Trump. So she needs time now, right, to come up with a new playbook. They don't have a new playbook. They don't have anything.
And you know what? That's a good point. Tucker, we know the playbook. Republicans are racist. Republicans are sexist. Gender war. Exactly. Republicans hate women. They want to throw grandma over the cliff. Donald Trump punches back twice as hard or 10 times harder. It's not going to work against him. What do they do?
Because he's not running an identity politics campaign, and they are. And so the person who is running, by definition, the shallower campaign. They're not running on ideas. They're running on physical attributes. I would say there are two things to note from this poll. It doesn't mean Trump's going to win in the fall. It means he could win in the fall. And it also means that almost every single person who's commented on this race for the last year has been not just wrong, but spectacularly wrong.
By the way,
just missed
Tucker, you have not been wrong. I have not been wrong.
Well, I appreciate that.
And there's a few others of us that have not been so wrong. But you are dead right. A lot of people have been wrong for a year and a half, and they're still commenting and making wrong predictions.
But you got to ask yourself, why are they so wrong? Not just sort of wrong, not off by 5 points, but like they say things
off.
Trump could never, ever win. Really? Look at these numbers. So it tells you that they don't understand the dynamics behind this campaign. It's not just about Trump. It's about the people who are voting for Trump, and they don't understand why those people would vote for Trump.
Record numbers.
Yeah, I have an idea to Tucker's question. It's because so many people that comment on this stuff, they are stuck in this kind of beltway-like thinking. They are stuck in old guard conventional wisdom, and it just doesn't apply here. Tucker also made a good point about Trump not kind of representing identity politics. I even push it further. I think he doesn't even represent partisan politics. And I know there's some on the right that cringe when I say that. But I think he transcends the classical conservative Republican candidate.
No, I actually agree with you.
And that makes problems for Hillary.
I think he's solution-oriented. I've spent too much time interviewing him, and I got criticized for the interviews, but when you actually listen, he's giving ideas to solve problems.
Broad ideas.
And in this unconventional insurgency year, you know, think about this, and I'll throw this to Tucker. You've got him beating 16 very big-name Republicans, and Hillary is battling a 4-year-old angry, bitter, curmudgeon socialist from Vermont. And she's having a hard time. She can't close it out. Doesn't that show a deep level of weakness?
That's part of what it tells you. It also tells you that the candidates who address the economic concerns and fears of the middle class win. And the candidates who are off in some theoretical world lose.
But don't they have to believe you as honest and credible first?
Yeah, they have to believe you. But even if they believed Hillary, what are elite Democrats running on? They're running on transgendered bathrooms and global warming. You can even agree with those things, but they don't speak to the actual concerns of actual people. Whereas Bernie Sanders, who's obviously a socialist and a crazy person, he's running on the fact that the average person is really worried about not having enough money. He's running on wages. And that's a real issue.
Ebony, I don't think Bill Clinton did the Democratic Party a lot of favors. He almost now has put a referendum out there on transgender bathrooms. And most Americans, actually, if you are physically a man, they prefer you go to the men's room. If you're physically a woman, you go to the woman's room. And the fact that he's made that issue so prominent and Hillary has had to comment on it, doesn't that hurt her?
Well, yeah, I think to Tucker's point, it becomes a distraction, right? Because ultimately, whether you agree with it or you don't, that is not going to be a go-to-the-polls type of motivator the way the pocketbook concerns are going to be. And I also, this is my biggest criticism.
If it was a referendum item, what do you think the number would be nationally?
7. I really don't think it's that important, Sean.
No. In other words, I think it's a 90-10 issue. Americans would not. What do you think, Tucker? 80-20?
Yeah, or 93-7. I mean, I completely agree. But look, the point is they don't care what the average person thinks. And so, you know, you can agree or disagree, but it's inherently anti-democratic. And by the way, this is a democracy. And so candidates who openly don't care what voters think lose, and they should.
Last word, Ebony.
Last word, I think the biggest criticism I have of Hillary, and I think this is going to come back to haunt her, she's been in such proximity to power for almost 30-some years now, and what has she done to really elevate and move the middle class in this country forward? And that's a big question I think she has to answer.
I don't think she has an answer for that. You know, I ask people on my radio show when we play Jeopardy music, tell me 3 things Hillary has accomplished that have improved the lives of the average American. And nobody can answer. Well, she, and that's the answer. Yeah. All right, guys, good to see you.
Thank you, Sean.
And coming up, after getting positive reviews from conservatives, Donald Trump says he will be adding to the list of potential Supreme Court nominees that he would pick if, in fact, he wins the White House. Our panel will weigh in with reaction next as Hannity continues. And many conservatives, well, they have already given his picks very positive reviews, and Donald Trump indicated that his list may be growing. He tweeted out, quote, "My list of potential U.S. Supreme Court justices was very well received. During the next number of weeks, I may be adding to the list." Joining us now with analysis from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, and member of the Federalist Society and Chief Counsel and Policy Director for the Judicial Crisis Network, Carrie Saravino, and Director of the Edward Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies at Heritage, John Malcolm. Good to see you. Jay, I've talked to a lot of people that know this, the people on this list. Not one person has anything but high praise for this list.
Look, this is a great list of potential nominees to the Supreme Court. You've got justices that have served with Justice Scalia as law clerks, Justice Thomas, Chief Justice Rehnquist. They come with broad and serious credentials. They have published opinions. They've served on the court for a number of years. You're not guessing where their judicial philosophy is emanating from. They understand the role of a justice of the Supreme Court is not to make law. So I think, look, no matter what anybody thinks, the fact of the matter is the lasting legacy of a president is often the Supreme Court of the United States. And I think you're looking at the next, we know we have a vacancy. There may be several others. This is the Supreme Court for a couple of generations. There's a lot at stake. These nominees are great across the board. Not one in there you would not be happy to have.
And Jay, you say that as somebody who has argued a number of times before the Supreme Court. Carrie, from my understanding is Donald Trump did a lot of research. He checked in with the Heritage Foundation. He checked in with the Federalist Society. He ran the list of names by senators and other people. This was a pretty extensive vetting process. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, I think all the research really shows. He asked the right people, and he took some great advice. I love that he includes people that are often overlooked, like state Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, that was
unique. It gives us a really good view of what they would really be like on a Supreme Court, because they've been on a state Supreme Court. Now you have an even better sense of how they might perform in the U.S. Supreme Court, because as we know, it's a lifetime appointment. You want to make sure you get it right, someone with a really solid judicial philosophy and who has the courage to stand up for it under pressure.
You know, I would say this, if I can, John. Republicans often get it wrong, Republican presidents. In other words, we're told that a justice like John Roberts is going to be an originalist. He disappointed a lot of people, including myself, especially on the Obamacare ruling. So do you feel that this list would, are you confident this list, there's no disappointments if, in fact, they got to the court?
You could have added Earl Warren, William Brennan, and John Paul Stevens to that list.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, good points.
Look, you know, 5 of the names on this list were also on my list, which the Heritage Foundation published. The remaining 6 judges all appear to be very eminently qualified men and women who have a proper view of the modest role that a judge plays, who are going to interpret the text of statutes and the Constitution based on the actual words themselves and not use them as empty vessels to pour in their personal or political biases. These are eminently, qualified people, and as Carrie just pointed out, 6 of them are sitting circuit court judges. 5 of them are sitting state Supreme Court justices, and I might add that one of the ones on the circuit court spent some time on the Wisconsin Supreme Court as well. These are men and women who are very well qualified with a broad breadth of experience.
Yeah, well said. Do you see any problems, Jay, for any of the 11 going up against Democrats, knowing that they play politics? Robert Bork, Clarence Thomas, 2 names come to mind, with judicial picks.
Look, Miguel Estrada, you can remember what they did to him. And the fact of the matter is, look, I think you got to keep the control of the United States Senate. And that's going to be very important here, because I think any one of these nominees, you're already seeing, potential nominees, you're already seeing the left criticizing these individuals. Why? Because they know that they have the judicial philosophy that's more like Scalia, and that's what they don't want. So I think, look, we got to be prepared, if Donald Trump is the president of the United States, to defend these nominees aggressively, and that means you can't just win the presidency. You've got to maintain control of the Senate. It'd sure be good to get 60 conservatives in that United States Senate to make sure you don't have a problem. But every one of these will be a fight, but it'll be a fight worth taking.
Or you could just follow the Harry Reid, the new rules, and circumvent past precedents, change them. Carrie, and I think this is really important, as you look at this list of people, do you see any problems?
I don't. I see the real strong contrast, for example, with what the president has put forward in Judge Garland. He has a really bad record on the Second Amendment. On this list, we've got people like Judge Sykes and Judge Hardiman, who really stood up for the Second Amendment. His judge tends to defer to the EPA and other unaccountable bureaucratic agencies every chance he gets. We've got people like Judge Kethledge, who has stood up to the IRS and stands up to these agencies. So I think for all of the points where we see Judge Garland going with the liberal majority, we see people here who show what it is like to stand up for the Constitution against the kind of things President Obama has been trying to do.
John, we'll give you the last word.
Well, look, I think that some of these people could well face a confirmation fight. Bill Pryor certainly had a very hard time getting onto the 11th Circuit in the first place. But these are people worth fighting for, and you need to have a president who is prepared to stand by them, to the bitter end, and to get them across the goal line.
I've got to believe this will go a long way with maybe some conservatives that had doubts about Donald Trump's commitment to conservatism, one of the most important jobs a president will have. Thank you all for being with us. Appreciate it.